In this video, I'm going to teach you some helpful animation exercises. First up is the pendulum, which is a great way to get used to the concept of arcs, as well as slow in and slow out. First, draw a ball on a string. For frame 2, draw it swung to the side, and make sure that the length of the string is kept consistent. For frame 3, draw it swung in the opposite direction. Now we have a basic loop, and to smooth it out, we can add some in-between frames. If we do 2 in-betweens, you might expect them to have the ball right in the middle of its position in the frames around it. But when we do it this way, the movement seems unnatural. That's because the ball has to slow down before it changes direction, and when it does turn around, it'll be going slow at first. This principle of animation is known as slow in and slow out, or ease in and ease out. By keeping this in mind, our animations will look a lot more believable. To take this a step further, we can add another pendulum attached to this pendulum. What's important to keep in mind is the rule of secondary action. That means that the second pendulum won't start to change direction until it starts to get pulled by the first pendulum. This principle can also be used when animating flowing clothing, hair, or other loosely attached objects. The next exercise is the bouncing ball, which will help to explain the concepts of squash and stretch. Start by drawing the ball and the floor. As we talked about in the last exercise, the ball will start to fall slowly and gradually speed up as it goes. A falling object won't slow down before it hits the ground, but if it bounces upwards, it will gradually slow to a stop and turn around as gravity works on it. Now we have a decent bouncing ball, but we can improve it with some squash and stretch. When an object starts moving really fast in one direction, it will get stretched out in that direction. To keep its overall mass the same, it also gets squashed in the perpendicular direction. When the ball hits the ground, it can't keep going down, but it still wants to move. As a result, each side starts moving sideways until the elasticity of the ball pulls itself back together and it bounces back up. Now we have a bouncing ball that looks a lot more lifelike. Our third and final exercise is the walk cycle, which as an animator you'll probably be using a lot. There are 4 basic poses to a walk cycle, and we'll start with the contact pose. This is where the feet are farthest apart and both legs are straight. Do one for each side. Now, in between the contact pose, draw a passing pose. This is where one leg is perfectly vertical and the other is passing by it as it moves forward. Also, the body is slightly higher in this pose than it is in the contact pose. In between the contact and passing poses are the up and down poses. The down pose is when the body is at its lowest and has the rear leg just starting to move forward after the contact pose. After the passing pose is the up pose, where the body is at its highest. This comes just before the leg is put down. Draw these 4 poses for each side, and now you have an 8-frame walk cycle.